I'm here to moderate today's event by following the Twitter feed. I'd like to introduce to you Lance Dublin, and the session today can be followed using the Twitter feed of hashtag VES280W. I'm going to be monitoring that, so virtual audience, please, this is a session about being collaborative, so let's use the Twitter feed in order to engage, and I'd like to introduce you to Lance Dublin.
Thank you very much, Emma. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you happen to be, somewhere in the world. Thank you for spending this time with me. If you're watching this on recording, then who knows what you were doing at this particular moment, but now you're going to have a chance to hear what we're going to do in the next 50 minutes. I want to talk a little bit about what we're going to cover in this session, and then we're going to dive into the content. And because of the way this event is designed, we're going to use the Twitter feed. I'm going to say that over and over again. That is your way out in the virtual land out there to communicate. We have people here in the room with me, so you get direct communication. And then also, each of you are probably on a platform that's coming into this virtual conference, so you can chat amongst yourselves. Unfortunately, I can't see those chats. So the only way you can communicate to me is those of you in the room, you get to just talk. That's a good thing. And those of you online or out in the virtual world out there can use your Twitter feed. So hopefully you'll communicate as much as you can and want to. So let's talk a little bit about what this session is. And you'll see this agenda slide. We're going to spend just a few minutes. We don't have time for everybody to do an introduction. I know that really disappoints you. But I've got a few questions we are going to ask everybody to answer. And then we want to go into sort of what is collaborative learning? What is this buzzword? What does it mean? It's being thrown around a lot. So I want to talk a little bit about what collaborative learning is, so we have a common framework to understand what we're talking about for the next 50 minutes. I want to then dive into where collaborative learning and the virtual environment sort of come together. That to me is the opportunity. That's why I'm here. I came in from San Francisco actually physically to be here, so I'm physically here. Because I'm very interested in how these two, I call them two worlds, are sort of coming together. The virtual environment world, the learning world. Because I'm a learning guy. I'm not a virtual environment person. I'm not a technologist. I'm a learning person. We'll look at some of the overview and then some features and benefits. I'm not promoting any platform. I don't work for any of these people. But I'm going to show you screenshots from various platforms. And if I didn't show your platform, I apologize. I just didn't happen to have that screenshot. So again, you're going to see a variety of things. We'll sort of pause for some question and answer. Although I encourage you, those of you in the room and coming in virtually, to use Twitter to ask questions. Don't wait. And if you're in the room and something comes to your mind, raise your hand. You don't have to wait to the Q&A session. And then I got just a few things, some wrap up, some take home. And so we're going to wrap this all up into 50 minutes. Now, you'll be able to get a link to this, so you'll be able to watch this at another time. And also at the end of the session, I'll give you a way to get the PDF file if you'd like just to have the PowerPoint slides. So that's a way to get them directly from me. So you'll see that at the end. So let's jump into this. That's me. So everybody, do I look sort of like that? What do you think? Yep, I'm the right person. If you just scan through that, the most important thing to look at is the 30. It is not that I'm 30 years old, although I wish I could tell you that. But actually, I've been in the learning industry for 30 years. So I'm a learning person who's seen a lot of technologies come sort of through the world. And I'm a synthesizer. I'm very interested in how technology and learning come together, which is what brought me into this event. Very interested in this virtual environment world and learning coming together. Now, these are the three questions. Those of you who are coming in virtually, please use Twitter to answer these. You can answer them while we're getting the answers from the room. So we're going to sort of do this. One of the wonderful things about this technology is you can do parallel processing. So we don't have to wait. So here are the things. Where are you located? So everybody in the room start to think. Where are you based out of? What industry are you in? Everybody start to think about that. If you're on the Twitter, start twittering this. And then your learning experience. Have you been in learning a long time? Are you new to learning? I'm interested not in your virtual experience, but your learning experience. So does everybody understand the question? Those people in the room, help me out. Okay. So quickly, give me some locations. I know England, United Kingdom, because my gentleman friend who supports Chelsea. Location? North Carolina. Charlotte. New Jersey. California, Illinois, Orlando. Do we have anybody coming in yet? Okay. So industries. What industries are represented here? Hospitality, insurance, conventions, convention centers. Sorry, Insurance. Meetings and events. Software. Okay, and you, Emma, you just tell me if something comes in that I should know about. Okay, great. So clearly, it really doesn't matter the industry. It's a topic, and this is a tool and technology that can be used across a wide range of industries, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So your learning experience, what's my audience? So I'm going to start on the right this side and go left. So my gentleman friend from United Kingdom, learning experience. Are you an advanced learning person, intermediate, beginning? Specialist technologist? Same? Okay, great. Educator? Sir? Medium. Okay, great. My Rat Pack fans there? Association? Sir? Medium? Same? Medium? Expert? Medium. Okay, great. And you're going to interrupt me when we get some. So what I'm going to try and try to cruise through this in a way that we touch on sort of all. It sounds like we have, everybody sort of has a touch into it. The good news is everybody here actually should have answered that as expert, because you can't get this far in life unless you know something about learning. So in a way, it's a trick question. But I know you probably think, well, I don't do learning in my company. I do something else. But we're always all doing learning. So a lot of what we're going to talk about, probably you're going to go, oh, I just get it. So let's dive into this topic, what brought you here, collaborative learning overview, what people are interested in. And so before I start, I just was curious about, and we'll canvass people here in the room, and then we'll ask people to Twitter, what was it about the title of this session that brought you here? So something about the title of this session brought you here. So before I dive into this, I want to sort of know what water should I be swimming in? So Bonnie, what brought you here?
Collaborative learning environment.
The environment. Got it. So I'm going to repeat this. So it's the environment and the ability to get away from a more stand-up, instructor-led kind of thing, which I've done a lot of. Who else what brought you here to this session? What was in the title? Yes, in the back. Right. So it's interesting how companies can use these environments to engage sort of internally and externally. Other specific things that brought you here that I should know about? Yes. Yeah, I thought that was a good part of the title. Nobody wants to miss out. So right. So that was good in terms of the title. So let's jump into this. And Emma and I have worked together before, so I know she will tap me on the shoulder or just hit me with the microphone if she wants me to pay attention over there. So I don't know if have you ever seen a word cloud before? Has everybody seen a word? You go to Wordle.net. It's the most amazing free, and I guess I am promoting them. I don't know. I hope I have not done it appropriately. Wordle, WORDLE.net. And you type in or you put in a bunch of text, and out it then creates these clouds based on how often the words show up. I have no idea how it works. I'm not a technologist. So I started playing around with social, learning, collaborative, virtual, and you could do it yourself. You get a different cloud. But what I want you to look at when you look at this word cloud is look at the words that are represented there. I mean, that's really what we're talking about. Where learning is there, but we're also talking about networking. You see the word communities. You see the word environment. You see the word team. If you look at this, you can see there's marketing, there's facilitation. When we start to really try and get our arms around this thing called collaborative learning, you realize it's not just one thing. It's a lot of things that all go into collaboration and learning and how they sort of work together. So yes, it's networking. Yes, it's chatting. Yes, it's using text. Yes, it's using a virtual environment. Yes, it's looking at links. I mean, if you look at everything on there, it's almost like, what isn't it? And we're actually going to talk a little bit about that. So first of all, I want everybody to understand there's not one standard definition that says collaborative learning equals this. And that's what you'll see. You can put in another 10 pages in here, and you might see this word cloud come out differently. But look at the bigger words, and you'll begin to see what it's really talking about. We're talking about learning, training. We're talking about networking. We're talking about social connections. That's really what we think about in a collaborative environment versus, let's say, a self-study environment, where it's just you and the book, or you and a videotape, or you and a computer. So I love the story of the blind men and women and the elephant. Has everybody heard that story? Right? So I don't know. And all of these were just searching on the internet for images. I apologize if it's your image and I didn't give you acknowledgement of it. I always try to. I thought this one was great. I'd never seen this particular cartoon. But just think what the cartoon is representing to us. It's saying that if you alone are out there trying to learn something, and it's just you, and what can happen is any one of these things, you could see only a small part of the possibility. And you've known that since you were in kindergarten and the teachers put you in groups, and all through primary school and secondary school. Why did you do teams? Why did you do projects? Why do they put people in classrooms? Because when people are engaged together, the learning is more, I want to call it robust. There's more possibilities. And if you think about it, how often have you learned something from somebody else? Where they said, well, wait a second, you aren't really looking at this right. If you looked at it differently, you might see it differently. So when we think about it, we've known that collaboration. Now, how are they collaborating on this slide? Right? They're collaborating by voice. They're just yelling out, this is what it's like. Well, fortunately, right, we're sitting in a world where we have people all over the world. We have people working on a 24/7 clock, so you can't have this picture. We have to have some technologies that allow us to enable these people to collaborate. So I love this one as well. So if you go in, Bing, Google, Yahoo, whichever search engine you like, because learning, collaborative learning and social learning, there's been a lot of talk about those because they're so intertwined. And social learning and social media, and we'll show you a slide in a few minutes, is sort of the buzzword for all the technologies that you're seeing, the Facebooks, the MySpace, the Twitter, and we'll talk about what some of these are, have all been called social media technologies by the technologists. And so the truth is, we participate, therefore we are. Understanding is socially constructed. There's been a social learning theory, a fellow by the name of Albert Bandura sort of popularized, and he basically makes the point that you can't have learning unless you socially connect. If I stand on top of a mountain and declare myself the smartest person in the world, am I the smartest person in the world? What do you think? If I'm on a mountain by myself and there's nobody around me, am I the smartest person in the world or not? You say no? I'm not the only person. Right. It takes other people to then say. So again, what I loved about this point is all of the things that we know about learning, are true. What we have is technology that's allowing us to enable it, enhance it, and extend what we already know about learning. And then we know that it's socially constructed. That's what learning is. You're trying your ideas against somebody else's ideas. And now, as we know, sometimes two ideas can both coexist. The world doesn't exist just in black and white. There's a lot of gray. Would everybody agree with that? There's a lot of gray in the world. So the notion is how then, in a learning environment, when you have a teacher teaching and there's no feedback and the students and the learners aren't able to interact with each other, we really aren't getting social learning. We're really getting one-to-one learning in a group setting. And that's all we could do because that's all the technology would allow. Well, the world's not that way anymore. We have people virtually coming in from all over the world. Who knows what time it is where they're coming in? I've had people join me at 1 in the morning their time. Why? Because they were so excited about the content and they wanted to talk to other people. That's the difference between watching this recorded and watching it live. Is if you're watching it live with us right now, you can Twitter, I can interact with you, you can chat amongst each other. If you watch it in a recorded session, who knows, maybe nobody else will be watching at the same time. So you're sort of having your own experience. So it's not really a social experience. I love again, trying to give you an idea of what we're really moving from. On the left-hand side, you'll see the words passive, information, and individual. Again, I don't know whose slide this is. You'll see Web 2.0. Buzzword there, sort of describing this whole move of the internet into a more connected world. And that is really what we see a lot of training or learning has been. The learner is very passive. It's very information driven, just the person lecturing, talking. Everybody else is really silent. It's focused on each of you as individual sort of pods or nodes. And that's sort of how it's been. It's how it's been a long time, right? Well, with the technologies, we now can move over here to the right, and you see the words active, experience, social. And I didn't put in the word good learning, because I don't know if there's a difference between good or bad learning, but I think it's the notion that you can really facilitate learning better if you get people active, if you drive to experience, let people experience things, and if you socially connect people. And therefore you get words like collaborative, reflective, cumulative, which I think are a lot more powerful than individual, disconnected. And that's really the opportunity we have. That's what's happening. So as I said, I started out my career in higher education. I did a lot of lecture-based work. That can be exciting, but what's really exciting is when you see people interact. And I know some of you went to university, went to college, and you had study groups. Why? Because there was so much to gain from collaboration. And if we really think about it, what the technology allows us to do is create some fantastic environments, and that's what we're going to look at as we go forward. This area here, what this person has called good learning, again, not my phrase, but I think it's the notion of learning that is more enriched, let's use that word, really comes from these things happening. And that's the opportunity we have, where the virtual environment and the collaborative learning world coming together. The virtual environments allow us to do things we couldn't do before. Like right now, we have some people here in this room, and we have people online, we have people twittering, we have people chatting. That just is not possible before. And so now what do we do with it is really the question that we'll sort of start to dive into here.
We've got some good conversation here.
Good. I'm going to get a glass of water while you do that.
Collaborative learning can be done offline. Social learning too. Bandura said it first. We've reappropriated it, excuse me, for online. We're also being asked if we can show more of the speaker in the live stream, please. People are just sending out your message, beginning to tweet about it. It's really exciting seeing it here. You're being quoted.
Oh, I'm being quoted, okay.
It's, social learning provides more possibilities since it's not done in isolation. This presenter calls it collaborative learning.
This presenter calls it, right. Many people say I believe I'm famous in my own mind, so maybe it's more than that. What I loved about this image, because I do believe a picture's 1,000 words, it's that notion that when you can reach out and touch a group, then you harness all of that energy, all of that knowledge, all of their experiences. It makes you even, it gives you opportunities you never thought before. I'm sure you've all had it from a simple conversation with somebody, an email you sent. Some of you may be twittering or not, you know how that works. You may be in a social network. You just know that one of the reasons people come to conferences, one of the reasons people are here on this virtual event is you want to get connected. And the more you connect, the more, I love this reach out and touch someone. That person touches someone else, which touches someone else, which touches someone else, which touches someone else. And if I was to, have the ability to redraw this picture, you then have all the resources that are available, not just people. I can refer you to PDF files, virtual streams, videos, all the resources that are out there that are available in the world. So now the learner is not this isolated person. They're able to collaborate. I think that's, if you think about it, in some ways, everything you've been doing is collaborative learning. You've just been doing it with, let's call them 1.0 technologies. Now we have 2.0 and 3.0 technologies, and that's the opportunity. Again, from a slide, just to help us, so what I want you to do is you look at this slide, start on the outer ring and then work into the world here. And I'm going to help you by removing some of the words there. I'll show them again. And everything that I've red boxed here, these are the things that make for rich learning. Look at some of the words there. Context, connect, converse, communicate, collect, change, collaborate, obviously, create, categorize. These are things we all want to do, and the more that we can do them, the more impactful our learning can be. So we've all tried to do these before, and we've done them in different ways before. So there's nothing on those C's, and I don't know who did the slide, but they were definitely into the C's. You can see that, before we did categorize things, we had the Dewey Decimal System in libraries. Now that's pretty archaic. People don't use that anymore. They use the Google algorithms to search things. We've always been interested in context, but now the context is my smartphone here, that I can learn something instantly the moment I need it. So context has changed. We see words like connection, right? We have lots of connection. We have the Twitter feeds. We have the IM. We have all these. We can connect probably more than many of us want to be connected. We can converse in lots of different ways. Now we have actually with the video phone coming on the smartphone, we can do that. We can talk by video. We can talk by Skype, all these people. So we're always communicating. We can collect. I'm sure some of you still have hard drives, and you have USB ports, and you're collecting stuff. I know for me, I've stopped printing out, thank God, but I still have files and files of stuff. We're always collecting things, thinking we're going to go back and look at it again. Change, collaboration, create content. So These things, they call this the social media landscape. And this is why these words, collaborative learning, social media, they all sort of intertwine because it's the language of different people. This slide is from a technologist slide talking about social media. I'm now sort of translating this slide into a learning slide. So over here, you're going to see in this slide, these are what people think of as the key platforms, or if you don't like the word platforms, think of them as tools or environments that enable you to do social and / collaborative learning. And I am using those pretty much, as interchangeable things. So blogging, right? So we all have opinions, the ability to write down those opinions and share those opinions. Now what's wonderful about the combination of virtual environments with the collaborative learning environments is people right now, if they wanted to, could go out to a blog while they're participating in this virtual environment if I referred them to that. So while this virtual session is running, they could be reading a blog to get some more information if they wanted to. They could also be blogging. Now, Twitter, of course, is called a microblog, so everybody sees that up there, 140-character blogs. So people have opinions about what I'm saying. And they're sharing them with other people, and they're responding to those, and other people are sharing them. So if you think about it, it's like dropping a pebble in the water, right? And all the concentric circles that come out from that. RSS feeds, a little bit of a technical phrase, but it allows you to follow someone's blog in a way. It's the best way to describe it, so that you don't always have to be searching, so that's a good technology. Widgets or apps, we've all seen those on your Android phone or your smartphone. We're going to see more of those little mini applications. Social networking, again, Facebook being the big one, of course, but there's LinkedIn, there's MySpace, there's Plaxo, there's just so many different ways that people can connect up and use those connections. Chat rooms, I know some of you in the tools that while you're here, in this session, you're chatting with people. Unfortunately, the way this event's set up, we can't chat across those tools yet. But chat is tremendous. When I do webinars, I love to have people chat while I'm talking. Now, that's a huge advantage. Because how rude is it in this room if all of you were talking while I was talking? Would that be rude or not? Let me just check that. I want to see what would that be rude? Yeah, even in your country that would be rude. In all countries. But now we do have people chatting all over the time. I call it parallel processing. I don't think of it as a bad thing. And parallel processing. Probably some of you wrote notes and passed notes when you were in school, when you were supposed to be listening to the teacher. So we've had parallel processing for a long time. Now we just have technology that enables it differently. Message boards, you can post stuff. Podcasts. Steve Jobs stole audio training and gave it a brand name called a podcast. We've actually had audio training since people could talk. And then we put it on audio tape, and now we have it digitized. And the first device it was put on was the iPod. I just want to clarify, everybody understand that you don't have to have an iPod to do audio training. Does everybody understand that? That's a bar, right? So you can put it on any kind of file. But you want the brand names like Kleenex. Video sharing, what we're doing, photo sharing. So all of these are tools, and what's really powerful, we're going to see in this next section, the virtual environment allows us to link all these tools together while we're learning. And that is what I think is the unique opportunity. That's what brought me here to be in this conference and talk about it, because I think that's what's new. The virtual environment, what do you call it, the 2D plus or 2.5D or 3D minus, whatever you want to describe it as, this environment we're in now, where some of you are live and some of you are virtual, now we can enhance that environment for learning in ways we never were able to do before because of all these tools that exist. And we're going to look at that in a minute I'm going to show you some screenshots and describe it. But before I go there, let me just pause to see how am I doing in tracking to what you're thinking. Any key questions that have popped up, things you want me to clarify? Let me try my physical audience first. How are we doing? Are we tracking okay? Yeah? They're nodding. Yes, yes, yes. Anything there I should know about?
Learning starburst rippling lake effect. So hard to measure impact when can't quantify how many concentric circles are created.
This is true. So we're going to talk about impact because people are very concerned about impact. Some people call ROI, and that's to me the most, I don't know if that's the appropriate word to use here, the most tight-fisted way to look at return. Return on investment. There's return on expectations. What did people expect? I think there's an interesting one. There's return on attention. You had a chance to be someplace else. Now you decide to come here. You better get a good return on that. People were watching virtually. You had a chance to be doing something else. You could be watching the news. You could be doing work, but you chose to be here. So I think the return on attention is really interesting. So sometimes impact is not so directly measurable. So we have to look at it in lots of different ways. That's why I also believe that learning is different than training, which is different than education. So we also have to be careful there, because training has a very specific end result, the ability to do something. Learning, I think, is much more of a process. You learn to become something over time. And I always think of education as sort of that foundational knowledge that you're always building that allows you to then do learning and training. But that's, we all have different views. That's sort of my view of it. So let's dive.
Interesting comment here. Agree on the notes passing as pro-tweeting. In today's grad school classrooms, notes aren't passed. Instead, Facebook is actually competing with the professor.
Right, Facebook or tweet. Yeah, my son's in college and he has his Facebook up all the time. He has 2 or 3 other sites up on his laptop, just like people have here in the physical environment. And he's multitasking. One of the things we know is that people do multitask. Even some of you are here in the physical world of multitasking, some of you in the virtual world of multitasking. I don't ever believe you can control that. I don't try and control that. I say you use that because people can't focus all the time. But the good thing is everything is being recorded. That's what's really different in today's world. While you're doing these other things, if you're in an environment, those are all, we'll talk about it in a minute, all being recorded and captured. So it's like all the conversations are being recorded while the presentation is still going on. So let's look at some of the environments. And again, these were just chosen randomly. I'm not endorsing or promoting any one of the platforms. Does everybody understand that? So I just chose some. So every time you see a slide, look at the red box. So if everybody can see a slide. Because what was interesting to me, again, remember, I'm a novice to virtual environments. I'm a learning person. So this is what struck me. Now, some of you may be more deep. And I looked at it and said, well, wait a second. You can start your collaborative learning right here at I guess you call this the entry point. What do you call this, Emma? What's the right word for this? This comes from you.
Landing page.
Landing page, thank you. So, yeah, I see the Learning Center there, and I see a Resource Center. Those are sort of obvious. And I see a cafe, but wait a second. What immediately pops up? Do you see those words where it says cafe, blog? Wow. I don't even have to, before I even start my quote-unquote learning experience, I'm already able to be thinking about maybe there's something there that's going to help me. I can start to collaborate right away. I don't have to wait for a teacher to tell me to collaborate. I don't have to wait for somebody to tell me. It's built into the environment. That's what's been exciting to me as the novice to virtual coming in as a learning person. So now I'm in a learning center. I guess this is still an exposed environment. And I looked up at the top. I said, well, okay, so I could go to classes here and I could do all that stuff, but that doesn't seem very exciting to me. And then I looked at the top. Wait a second, I can still follow that blog. And then I saw this. Oh, there's a laser on this thing. I forgot. The who's here. So now I can do something and actually find out who else is here, who's interested in what I am. Like even in this physical environment, I wish I knew more about everybody in my audience. If I knew more about you, I could better present for you. Couldn't I? Because I am sort of skimming trying to find the common threads to all of you. But the more I know about you, the better I'm able to tailor my content to you. So I thought, wow, it would be great to know who's here. And then I still have my blog, and I can do other things. So I thought, well, that was interesting. And then the magic search. Now, I actually believe that Google, not to promote them, because they did promote it themselves, are actually the world's largest technology-enabled learning engine. Because most everybody I know, when they're trying to figure something out, they go to that little white box of hope. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? The little white box of hope? And in that little white box of hope, they type in something they hope will give them an answer. Have you ever done that in my physical audience? And do you always get the right answer back from the white box of hope? Always get it? The exact answer you want? No. But what happens? Do you get a demerit if you get the wrong answer back? Does the little white box of hope also send, you're dumb? What does it then do? It becomes blank again. And what do you get to do next? Type something else. And how many times can you do that? Is there a limit? No. And does it ever judge you? No. Actually, the new technologies coming out are supposed to be getting smarter, and the more you do searches, the more smart they're going to get. Because one of the ways to search is it means I'm driving. And if anybody who is a learning professional has followed Malcolm Knowles and knows about adult learning theory, adults like to drive their own learning. So one of the ways I love the virtual and technology-enabled platforms, it allows adults to drive. Just like some of you virtually are not really paying attention to me. You're doing your email and driving somewhere else, but it's all working for you. So let's look at some other things. Now I've gone into a learning room. I've changed vendors here to be fair. Look at the red box. I went, wait a second. I can send a message right from this learning room. I can chat. I can find an expert who's offline. wow, that allows me, as a learner, look at all the resources I now have. It's more, not just a video stream. I can now do all these other things. Now, I haven't actually started even an activity. First, I was finding out where the learning was, and I could collaborate to do that. Now I'm getting ready to start an activity, and I can collaborate. I don't have to wait. So all of this is allowing people to have much more effective and impactful experiences because they're getting more and more tailored and focused. It's getting much more personalized. Now I'm in a virtual classroom. Again, look at the red box. It says social media. I put that up there. And it says chats and forums. So now I'm in a virtual classroom like this, in one what do you call it? One environment. Thank you. And I can jump out to Facebook or Twitter, and I'm sure there will be others. So now I'm actually doing a learning activity, and I can go to Facebook and share it with people, or I can ask questions, or I can get additional resources. Or over here where it says chats and forums, while I'm doing the virtual class, just like we're doing it here, the virtual environment, I can go to a forum, I can chat with other people. This is making my learning more impactful. And that's why I get excited about this. It's all about things you couldn't do before. That's, to me, what technology is about. Now, this is another picture of the virtual classroom. Again, look what I've up in the upper, there's a briefcase, so I can get files up there. I still can go out to my blogs. Down here, it shows everybody else who's in the event so that I can now talk with them, identify them, learn from them. So again, what was exciting to me coming into this as a learning person, I'm going, wow, a lot of the tools exist in these platforms. It's just a way, thinking about how to use them for learning as opposed to events. If I hear the word event one more time, I think I am going to lose it. We have a myopic view so far as I could tell this event, that everything's an event. Yes, learning is an event, but if your goal is that people end up knowing something at the end, I don't know that's an event. I think it's more of a process or an engagement, so I think it's something for people to be thinking about, but that's my little hobby horse. Let's look at another one. So now I'm in the virtual classroom, and I'm actually able to see a class, and there's some names here. And I can find people, I can search, and now I'm thinking, wow, if I could search right now and know what each of you really did, I would be much better able to help you learn. Because I don't really know what you do. I sort of know what you told me, but I'm not quite sure. But the more I knew about you, the better my learning could be. Because the better I could present to you, and the more resources I could have. And these platforms allow you to do that. I was really totally impressed. This is another picture. This is Emma here. So I'm just picking out random screens from vendors that are here. And over here, what I liked was chat. Now, unfortunately, the way we're set up in this conference, I can't see chat. I love chat. I encourage people to chat because that's where you get what's really on people's minds. Twitter is sort of, to me, the next best thing, but it's not, we all can't see it. So, you're in the environment, people are learning, you're chatting, you can have multiple video screens. That all makes for really impactful learning. Again, there's some chatting there. And, this one. There's some polling. Another way you get people to collaborate is you ask people questions like I've been asking you here, and we've been asking people online. And we constantly are touching base. How am I doing? How's it going? And one of the things I like, and I don't know, do these environments have emoticons, Emma? Can I raise my hand, be smiley faced?
Yes, you can.
I can do all that
A lot
good
of the
stuff.
environments do support that.
Okay, great. So other ways, again, for the person who's presenting to be in touch with the audience. I love the whole networking lounge concept, which, again, most of the platforms have, which is what some people will say, this is where you can do your informal learning, right? So this is where I've gone to some more formal activity, but look at all the things down here. Again, I could network with all these people. I could look at forums. There's a chat. This is a wonderful way for people to then take what was presented and engage with it and share it and talk about it, which I think makes for powerful and effective learning.
Yeah, Sarah's actually saying in the Twitter feed right now, knowing our audience seems we always speak to the lowest common denominator.
Right.
Maybe people would rise to our expectations if we essentially set them higher.
And I think that the opportunity of technology, which we're going to talk about in a minute, is allow us to do things we couldn't do before. To me, that's what all technology is about, and we'll talk about that in a second. I'm in the networking lounge. I'm still talking to all these people. Now I'm doing some searching here. I love that. It's a forum. It's a street. And then the other part of learning is documents. And I know all of you you save a lot of documents. You produce them, you save them, you want to get them. You always are looking for them. I know I'm always looking for them. I haven't figured that out. I love this whole resource library. But at the bottom, the whole notion is while I'm finding these static resources, I also continue to collaborate and network. And as you know, if you go to a public library, they don't want you collaborating and networking. They tell you, what's the common word that librarians are taught? shh, shh. Well, to me, that's like don't learn, don't learn, don't learn, as opposed to talk, engage. But you can't have everybody talking in the library because what would happen? It would be a din. Some people would be interrupted. You can't have multiple conversations. The technology allows us to do things we weren't able to do before. So now I can be in a library or a resource room. I can be looking at videos, audio tapes, podcasts, oddcasts, vodcasts, whatever buzzword you like, PDF files, and I can be talking about them with other people. And I can be sending them, I think, to other people. I don't know that that's true. Can I send a link to somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
Emma? I'm just checking with my expert here about what, because I told you I'm not an expert in the technologies.
You know, adults, Twitter feed here, adults like to drive their own learning. Sometimes, something that trainers sometimes miss is that essentially they want to drive their own learning. So that, the comment here is, which is why this particular Jay Clary is saying, I don't like hard objectives in the training classroom.
That's you? And here's Janet, who's physical, who's coming across virtually. Is this your avatar, Janet? Yeah, okay, good. So trying to summarize this up for you. On the left, I was trying to look at what are the common, quote-unquote, facilities I found in the virtual environments. So this is again, and then I was trying to look at what are the benefits, the learning benefits of those facilities. That's what this slide is trying to. And then at the bottom, I aggregated that for you. So to me, you have virtual classrooms. This is a virtual classroom. We're in a classroom environment. And what happens when you bring the virtual environment and the collaborative environment? I chose the word richer learning. And again, we can debate all these words, but I just think it makes the learning experience richer. Now, I can't say it makes it better. I think that's a value judgment. We could, because then people say, what's better, what's not better. But if you think about it, it's richer. There are more things that people have that's going to, I think, enrich their learning. And I think you could then extrapolate that if it's a richer experience, you should get better learning. Now, people said, Lance, show me a study. There is no empirical study to show this. The only empirical studies have done so far that say design is important. It's how you use things, not the technologies themselves. You can design a great learning experience with a pencil. You can design a great learning experience with this virtual environment. So one is not better. One gives you more choices. The next one down, I love the forums and the learning rooms. And I thought, wow, what was really cool to them about that to me was now I'm sort of even more of a driver because there's not an instructor there. I can access content, SMEs, that's what SMEs is, subject matter experts, and peers, and I can network. So now I'm not in this sort of what I call static classroom environment. I'm in I think of it more as a group learning environment. Again, I thought that was a nice mix of the virtual and the collaborative. The third one down, we were just talking about, I got really excited about the networking lounges. Because what happens a lot of times if you just are chatting with people, they go away, they log off. And you're sort of left there yourself. But it would be really nice if I saw who all was, I could see all the people that were in the chat. I could follow up with them. I had a way to reach out to them, other than the chat. I knew their email, again, if it was allowed, or if I could access their profiles. And that's why you get this other inside and outside. So these are people inside the learning environment, but also the ability to reach out, to go out of the environment into the world and access and connect with people. That makes for, I think, more enriched learning. Again, because it's extending your reach.
There's a comment here about chatting would be ideal to me if by default it enabled me to friend whoever was the most interesting from the chat. Another comment, someone's connected through the Unisphere environment and saying that it's impressive. And, technology allows us to do things we have not done before.
Done before. Resource libraries, well, we're just talking about that one. So if you look at all of this, if I was to talk to these environments to a technologist in Silicon Valley where I come from, they would say this is all what they call social media. It's the Web 2.0, it's social media. That's the buzzword for it. I think that all enables collaborative learning. And to me, the other hidden thing to all this, which I thought was very, very interesting, if I was an organization trying to drive learning, is the ability from tracking and reporting that the combination of virtual environments and collaborative learning give you, that you actually can go in and track who is accessing what resources, how long they're spending on those resources, who they're talking to, why they're, how long they're talking to them. Now I know the edge here is that big brother, and I think that is an interesting philosophical conversation we don't have time to have right now. But if I knew that all of you right now had gone to one website and were spending most of your time on that website reading it, that would help me as an instructor and help other learners. So watching people's patterns and how they navigate the system, you can't do that. It would be like walking around a university saying, where are the paths? What room do people go to? What teachers do people go to? Now, as I said, my son is at Cal Berkeley, and when he chooses a class, there are 2 or 3 websites that rank college professors. Did you know that? And they rank them, and they talk about their teaching style. So when he goes to register, he goes to these 2 or 3 sites where tens of thousands of students have ranked these professors to decide based on how hard it is, what kind of class it is. You can't get that out of a college catalog, right? They don't give that. So that's where the technology and the tracking and the reporting is so very powerful. So another pause here. So I love the pause that refreshes. So I just gave you another whole shot of content. First we talked about collaborative learning and sort of ways to look at it. And just now we sort of toured through some of the vendors, and I was trying to highlight what I thought were the key technologies. So both our virtual audience and our physical audience. Where am I leaving you now? Questions that have come up, comments that you have. How am I doing? Let me do a check here. Am I moving along to answer your questions? Yes, yes. Anything hanging out there? So Janet, Emma, you'll let me know. So, in trying to think about, something to sort of leave you with as we think about pulling this together, I love the Venn diagram. Is everybody familiar with it? I don't know who Mr. or Mrs. Venn is, but they're brilliant. Because I'm a management consultant. If you put any of those 3 things in a circle, your client thinks you're brilliant. So it's just that it is the most important tool as an independent consultant that you can have. So, why am I here today? Because I think that there's an opportunity that we didn't have before. There's a wonderful fellow by the name of Kevin Kelly. You can Google this or Bing this or whatever, find out about him. He's about my age. He invented the Whole Earth Catalog. He was an early contributor to what's called the Well, which was the first social network. He's written for Wired magazine. This guy really follows it. And he said, what happens is technology creates options and opportunities. And we're sitting at a time now where we couldn't have done this before. This was not possible. So now what we have to do as professionals is think, what can we do with something that wasn't possible before? And that means we got to start out thinking, okay, tools. This is the technology. This technology now allows us to do something that wasn't possible before. It allows us to have people physically here and people virtually. It allows people to watch a recording of it. It allows people to feed in on a Twitter stream. It allows people to chat. It allows people to go out and network. That wasn't all possible before. So as professionals, we have to think, how do you use these new tools to design more enriched learning? The next word I love is always context. It's the tool, but also why is this important is because more and more companies, all your workers aren't working in offices anymore. People don't come into physical meetings. They want to have both physical and virtual meetings and events. I know you love the phrase events. We can't fly as much as we did. So there's a context. Plus, the technology that people have at their homes and at their desks is more powerful. The smartphones are more powerful. So the world has shifted. So we have to think about how do the tools impact that shift? How do we use the tools? And that leads us into the hardest thing, as we all know, is thinking differently. Now, just looking at everybody physically in the room, I'm not seeing any children here. Is that a fair statement? Oh, by age, not by behavior. I know you. By age. So that means you pretty much all are taking everything I'm saying and you're filtering it through your experience, because that's what adults do. They filter every piece of new information. That's why kids are so much fun, because they don't filter stuff. They just do it and see what happens. As we get adults, we know don't put your hand in the fire, right? But we also, as adults, then close out a lot of opportunities. So one of the hardest things is for adults to let go and think, okay, how do I look at new tools in a new context, and how do I find that aha moment? Where does that aha moment come from? And I tell you, living in Silicon Valley, I love it, because that's where a lot of the aha moments are created, where people just think about doing things they could never do before. And I could tell you every story about every company you know, Apple, Google, I work for them all, Microsoft, Sun, Oracle, they all had this aha moment. They all were Intel, where somebody said, there's something new has happened, there's a new world that we're living in, and I think about it differently, and you could have a Google, you could have a Facebook. Now, I'm really annoyed about Facebook. I just got to say one thing by everybody, because I didn't invent it. And I own about 20 yearbooks from all the schools I've been to. And that's where it began, right? Like a yearbook or a school book. Now, why did I get that idea? None of you want to give me that answer? Why I didn't get that idea? Because I couldn't get out. I couldn't be here. I didn't see it. And he saw it. He saw a tool, the context, and the thinking, and created something that's, what 500 million users, 600 million users? Who knows what it's worth? So to try and, why does this work? Why does the marriage of collaborative learning and virtual environments work? Well, here's me as the learner out there on my individual island trying to learn stuff as best I can. Now, I know most of you have friends. Is that a fair statement? This is a simple yes or no answer. We can ask the Twitter. They have friends, right? And do you ever go to your friends for advice? Yes. Do you ever talk to your colleagues? I know you do. None of you exist in a vacuum. But your friends have a limit. So just think why it works is now what happens if you can connect to people you don't even know yet who can help you? You don't even know them. You don't even know their name. You don't know what country they live in. You don't know what time zone they're in. You don't even know what language they speak, because pretty soon we will get to a universal language translator. Doesn't that make you more powerful? Not power in the Machiavellian phrase, but as a learner and to be able to learn more. I mean, just the fact that probably here we have people from different countries and we have the whole cultural interpretation. So it works because it magnifies. I call it the power of N, or the power of people. If you have, this is what's driven Wikipedia, which I'm sure many people know as the collection of the knowledge of the world, some of it accurate, some of it inaccurate, but by sort of trying to harness that, only more and more learning and knowledge happens. So what's the focus? So it's very interesting. We're talking about where virtual environments and collaborative learning come, but really the focus is not collaborative learning. The focus is learning. That's really what we're talking about. How do we make learning better? And whatever better happens to be. So what was the first great learning technology? What was the great first learning technology? Somebody help me out here. What do you think? The pencil. Thank you very much. The ability to write something down. What was the next big one? Printing press. Huge. It was used first by the church, by the way, not by educational institutions. After the printing press, come on, wireless. It was the, what do you call it? Radio. Open University in India was radio. Then we saw TV. And then we saw mainframes, computer-assisted instruction. That's when I got involved into it. Then we got CBT, computer-based training. Then we had interactive video discs. Then we had interactive multimedia. Then we had this thing called web-based training. Then we had this thing called e-learning. Who knows what that happened to be. Then we had virtual classrooms. Now we're doing virtual environments. We're doing 3D learning. Is it stopped? Will it ever stop? No. So really what it is, it's learning. How would you say this? Somebody in the room help me say this. How would you say that word? Come on. Learning. Who's my mathematician? E degree. What does it mean? If you have that symbol up there in the upper right. Come on, you're a mathematician. E power. The power of. So what's happened is the pen and pencil made learning more powerful. The printing press made learning more powerful. The radio, the television. Well, now the virtual environment allows us to do learning in ways we just couldn't do before. Learning hasn't changed. What's changed is how we, for me the word is extend, enhance, and enable. That's what I actually believe the E is. Extend, enhance, and enable. And now the virtual environment allows us to do that in ways we just couldn't do it before, which is really what's effective and powerful. So this session said two things. Why you need it and what you'll miss if you don't get it. Isn't that what was the promise of this session? So I'm going to answer those two questions. Why you need it, it's because this is actually how people learn. They collaborate. And when they can't all be in the same room, you have to collaborate in a virtual world. And when they can't all be there at the same time, you have to have a 360, 24/7 means for which people to learn. And that's where the combination of the virtual environment and collaborative learning are very, very powerful. So it's not just an event, a marketing event. I know that that's how it sort of started. I think it's actually going to have much more application in learning. That's my prediction, is that once it moves out of marketing and it actually gets into the organization, either you're going to see Facebook become virtual, or these virtual platforms will become more like Facebook. Something's going to happen. That's my prediction. We can try that out. In 100 years, I'll be right, correct? Because we'll all be dead. And the last thing is, what you'll be missing if you don't do this, I think you're missing an opportunity to really bring learning into your organization. Because if you don't use these tools to really design learning in ways that you've never done it before, you're really missing out on that opportunity just to make learning so much better. And again, better, we can make a lot of judgments about it, but the end result will be the learners will be more engaged, the presenters of learning will feel more satisfied, business results will change because as people learn, they can perform better, which is the whole point of learning. And people will continue to interact and engage and help other people learn. So I believe actually the whole organization gets lifted. So that's what's really in it for you, what you'll be missing if you don't do this. So here is information while we're watching the Twitter feed and for you to think about some last questions. If you want to get the PDF file, go to my website, and under the Downloads tab, you'll figure it out. You'll be able to, I'll put up the PDF file. If I've said anything either to stimulate you or annoy you, send me an email, because I love to be in contact with people, or you can call me. Either way. But we have a couple more minutes for some final questions, don't we? Emma, how am I doing at time?
You're pretty much on time.
I'm pretty much on time. So I don't want to I want to give it, is there anything coming from there I should know about? We're good?
We're good?
We're good. So I'm just going to quickly, because we have a minute or two, I want you to think about one thing that's an aha from this session. Bonnie, one thing, an aha.
Just the fact that this is something that needs to be done.
Needs to be done. Context. Okay, good. Janet. Not all is new. Great. My conference ladies. The Rat Pack. Education, training, and learning. This gentleman in the back. Continue to be a learner. My Chelsea fans. Chelsea fan. I'm still thinking, okay, your colleague. More accessibility, ability to participate, which is all that it's doing. I mean, and it's going to even be more and more enriched. And I think that if you're here today and you're seeing this virtual, we're at the very beginning, I think, of this confluence of virtual environments and collaborative learning. So if you're still thinking, I don't quite get it, I guarantee you it's only going to get more and more powerful as the computers get more powerful and people get more used to it, because this is the way people learn. They learn both hybrid, virtual, and they collaborate. And as we realize that we can make this seamless, we're going to have very impactful and effective learning. So unless there's something coming from Twitter, I need to wrap it up.
Sarah Siegel just says, this past year we further infused our leadership development programs with social learning opportunities, and it has enlivened them.
Enliven them. So maybe enhance, enable, extend, and enliven. Thank you very much. Great rest of the day. Thank you so much.